All right. 10th meeting of the BTNEP conference. We're gonna wait you roll call and remind everybody that you sign in when you get here. So if you have not signed in yet, please do so before you leave, so we have to report who's here and who's not here. All right, so we are here in St. Charles Parish. It's a great facility. I want to thank you for having us here, especially President Matt Gould. I think he's got a message for us.
We're honored to have you all in St. Charles Parish for the BTNEP Management Conference. I'm so sorry that I was unable to join you today in person. Your work protecting and restoring our estuaries is vital, not just for our environment, but also for the communities and industries that depend on these natural resources. We appreciate your dedication to coastal restoration, water quality, and habitat conservation. And we recognize the critical role that you play in safeguarding Louisiana's future. I also want to take this opportunity to once again congratulate Brent Haas on his appointment as Executive Director. Brent, your leadership, your experience, and passion for our coast will undoubtedly guide BTNEP to even greater achievements. I look forward to working together to support future projects in St. Charles Parish and the 16 parishes throughout the estuary. Thank you for your commitment to preserving our ecosystem and in turn, our home. We hope that you have a productive conference, and please know that St. Charles Parish stands ready to support your efforts in any way we can. Safe travels and enjoy your time here. Have a great day.
All right, that was nice. Thank you, President Matt Gould. We I want to make a quick statement about the microphone system. You notice we have them all around the room, and you turn them on by pressing the button. And if the green light is on, you mic is live. And I've been told these are very strong microphones, and it'll pick up a whisper. So make sure that if you're going to whisper something to the person next to you, that your microphone is turned off so you don't hear it. Okay, we had the agenda sent out to us earlier this week or last week. We had any comments about it? Mr. Mark, Mr. Wayne, who's on second? All in favor? Aye. All right, thank you. So I gave my remarks already. So I have no remarks from there on for the whole business announcements. Oh, sorry, approval of the minutes. We approved the agenda. We have the minutes here in front of us. We need to approve the minutes. Yes, we got yes, and Chris Manning. Okay, whole business announcements. Okay, we want to do business name or the rest of the board?
I think I appreciate pointing out the mic that get some of this trouble if we're not careful. So, I'm gonna talk to you guys a little bit about 2024 and some of the things that were accomplished, some of the things that we did. I'm trying to get through that pretty quickly. We're going to do kind of a by the numbers approach there, and then talk with you a little bit about what's coming here for us this next year, 2025. Before I do that, though, I also would like to certainly thank President Jewell. Didn't realize he was going to make a comment about me, but I appreciate that. I want to thank you for hosting us here at St. Charles Parish. It's good to be out in the estuary in different places around the estuary. As I mentioned before, we're going to continue to try to do this. We'll have a little bit of an announcement a little bit later about the next management conference. It will be not out and out, and instead be more familiar confines of vehicles. But nonetheless, it's good to be out here. I really want to thank President Jewell's staff as well. They've been nothing but accommodating and helpful and as professional as they can be in getting us set up and helping us pull this meeting off. Before I get started too, I wanted to mention that at the last management conference, I made an announcement that we had a new hire. I think the management conference was November 14th, and Michelle, I'm happy to say, started on November 18th. She showed up and has been showing up every day since then. We're very happy to have her be as part of the team, and I'm glad that she's here in person today. She wasn't able to be, of course, at the last management conference meeting, but it's been good to have Michelle. She's already making a difference and helping us out in managing the mission of BTNEP. So I'm going to give her just a quick minute to say a couple of words, and then we'll move on with the rest.
Thanks, Brendan. Good dinner at the bar is show up every day. No, it's been great being here. It's really awesome to see how much support and participation we have in this management conference. Especially, that it's in Wheeling and not typical too, though. So really excited to see where we can take BTNEP. Walked into a really great staff. And, looking forward to seeing what all the projects we're gonna get, this coming Friday look like and, how we're gonna improve that story going forward. So thanks again.
Thanks, Michelle. If you haven't gotten a chance to get to know Michelle, I certainly encourage you to come up and introduce yourself after the meeting and have a conversation with her. She's very knowledgeable about the estuary. Has been in and around it pretty much all her life. So, again, happy to have Michelle with us, and we'll jump right into things then. So some highlights from 2024. Again, this is going to be kind of a by the numbers approach, but lots has been accomplished. A program, the staff who are all here today. 250 home sewer systems were repaired, replaced, which water quality is a huge part of BTNEP's mission. Improving the sewer systems goes a long way towards making sure we've got good, healthy waters, which is good for all of us, for all the reasons you all certainly are familiar with. Basic species program is exciting along. Projects involve tilapia, Consolidated, purple blue stripe, house snails, of course, have been advanced. Removal of marine debris, trash, almost over 9 tons of trash were removed by the Parish during last year's cleanup. That's an astonishing number to me, but nonetheless, we're glad to get that out of that important waterway within the estuary. Had a great white boot gallon. Many of you were able to be there. Record breaking in terms of both attendance and funds that were raised there. So that was a good event. I'm looking forward again already to having the next one here coming up this fall. Been over 300 volunteers helped in that body of fish cleanup that I mentioned a minute ago. In terms of exposure and getting out, getting our BTNEP's name and our mission and projects out there, we gained over 1,000 new followers across various social media platforms. Giving away over 1,500 native plants to folks that can help improve small habitats, as small as your backyard, which is important, of course, as we know, for lots of reasons. Much trash removed from Elmer's Island, over 23 different events, green team cleanups there, over 1,000 bags of trash were removed. 221 purple martin fledglings were documented. I was fortunate to, I'll mention this later, I shouldn't say it now, but fortunate to be able to get out Grand Allies to help install some of those housing units a little bit earlier in the year, so that was a good thing. 75 paddle by the food participants and 86 volunteers removed almost 700 pounds of trash for international coastal cleanup on Elmer's Island. About 85,000 native plants were produced by our our native plant nursery for restoration projects throughout the estuary. Almost 20,000 of those were installed at Fort Bouchon. We introduced the estuary updates that all of you hopefully are receiving. Over 2,000 folks are on the mailing list for that. We distributed 18,000 paddle craft counters. We're almost out of those. So if you haven't got your calendar yet, give us a call. We may have 1 or 2 stashed away, but just about all of those are out the door for folks to use throughout the estuary. So a big event, of course, that we're all just coming out of. I know this was a 100-year kind of event. Obviously, the snowstorm that happened. It was good to have a day or two off and get the play in the snow a little bit, but we did sustain a little bit of damage at the nursery. So you can see a picture there, kind of the wide angle picture, and then some of the shade cloth that came down under the weight of the snow, and that affected some of the irrigation systems there as well. But Matt, Ashley, Ryan, and others at the nursery thankfully have it back in good shape and ready for spring, ready for summer, which of course is a busy time of year at the nursery. Michelle alluded to this. We do have a solicitation open right now. It closes at 11:59 tomorrow. So if you haven't gotten your application in or proposal in for a project that helps support the CCMP, time is getting very short. But as important as getting those proposals in, of course, also is the invitation to participate in our action plan. So we have 4 active action plan teams. Those teams review the proposals that we get and really set the direction and drive the direction that the program is going in terms of making the decisions about what the projects are funded and what projects can advance. So it's really a way for anybody that wants to participate in the betterment, restoration, preservation of the estuary to have some real significant input and drive the direction that the program is going by reviewing and helping to make recommendations on those projects. I do did mention that, of course, we have a new administration in the federal government that is in, of course, and there have been a lot of executive orders that have gone out that relate to grant funding. Got a lot of questions about that over the last couple of weeks. And unfortunately, I don't have a lot of answers. We don't really know exactly how those executive orders may affect BTNEP, EPA, of course, with the funding that we receive through EPA. But I do know one thing: if you don't get an application in, you won't be able to get any funding. So, for the time being, my best advice is to stay the course. And if you're interested in participating and receiving some funding through BTNEP, obviously get your applications in, and we'll be dealing with this as time goes on. Many of you are never dealing with this in other capacities as well. But we'll have better information and some definitive information, but we just don't have it yet. So a few things coming up. Looking forward to a good year, as I mentioned, 2025. But note that April 5th will be invited to Fushkina. There are sponsorship opportunities available if anybody's interested in that. You can see the information email there if you'd like to get more information or have any questions for us. Just recently, kind of in last year, beginning of this year, we had the Parish School visit the nursery to learn about what we do there, help tend to some of the plants. We had a 4-H visit to the nursery as well, about the same time period we did last year. Eve Abrams, who is the Weapons Radio podcast host, visited the nursery as well. Hung out with Matt, Ashley, and Brian. They collected some native seeds, and it was a good opportunity for us to tell our story with Eve that has not broadcasted yet. We'll be out there to a pretty broad audience. We participated with the Master Naturalist Field Trip in the Feet at the end of last year as well. Bobby Sherman paddle trip with the Sea Grant class as well. And you see pictures later there. So the other familiar faces for the Christmas bird count occurred right after Christmas. And it was formed as well. We some staff were able to get out to the Glass Half Full facility. I believe this is in Chalmette. This is an organization that recycles glass. They grind it into sand. That sand is then used for a lot of different reasons, but one of the primary reasons it's used is in restoration projects across our coast. And you see a picture of Andrew there, our water quality model, working at World Wetlands Day at the South Louisiana Wetlands Discovery Center. I need you to see her do. She's probably the one who snapped that picture, so you don't see her in the picture, but I'm sure she's behind the camera. So we had sparrow banding and do it this morning again, just a couple of weeks ago. Yes, I recognize it's not a sparrow in the lady's hand, that's a cardinal, but it was we'll call that bycatch. But it did man a lot of sparrows in that event, so that was a good deal. We were able to participate as well as CRCL in the Leeville Living Shoreline Project. We CRCL, as you all know, has a many of you know, has a oyster shell recycling program. And so we put 59 tons of oyster shells in the water around the boat launch, kayak launch, boat launch there here at Leeville. That was in conjunction actually with Super Bowl, and NFL was the sponsor of that. It's a good event. There were probably 180 or so participants there. So, and I mentioned the Purple Martins. You see a picture of that there. That's installation. I think this is probably either in Plaquemines or New Roads where those boards are being installed for the Martins. So that's it. I wanted to keep kind of brief. We've got a pretty robust agenda with some great speakers today. You probably need to hear from them what you need to hear from me. But I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them, and certainly I'll be here for lunch. So if you have any questions, then I'll happy to chat with you then as well. Thank you.
Okay, so there's no questions for Brian. I'd like to move over to Dr. Gary O'Connor to give us a foundation report.
Thanks, Dr. Condo. I'm Gary O'Connor. I am serving as the president for the Asbury Foundation, and there's some other Asbury Foundation folks here, like Dwayne Bourgeois. Raise your hand. Is Betty here now? We have several people in the management conference from the Asbury Foundation. We're continuing to do what we do, which is we're holding funds for several of the partners in the room that have projects. We do that for BTNEP as well as management conference members like Wetland Acadian Cultural Center and even LongCon. We have funds from grants, and we help administer that to certain projects. So we're increasing our funds these days with the hard work of, some of our members like Wayne Bourgeois, working out well. One of the other things that we do is we help to run some of those projects that Ben was talking about, like we're gonna help with like food cleanup, and we are helping to serve lunch today. So that's the kind of thing that the Esquire Foundation does. So we're looking forward to September. If you have some ideas about White Boot Gala coming up in September 2025, you can call me or you can leave a message with Nicole Batten. She's always thinking about the next White Boot Gala coming around. Now, my day job is at Nichols. And so while I'm at the floor, I do want to mention two things coming up. One of them is this weekend. On Saturday, we have Bayou Studies Conference. We're taking some of the work that's being done at Nichols down to Cutoff. We're meeting at LaFouche High School, South LaFouche High School. That's on Saturday. Got some of these flyers behind Nicole Batten's desk right over there. And in a month, it's going to be March 12th, we're having a coastal summit at Nichols State University. That's going to be hosted by the MACO department, Mass Communication Department. So I have some flyers for that as well. It's a coastal summit, mostly catering to students. So let me know if you have questions about that. That's it for me and the Esquire Foundation. Thanks.
Yes, Christina?
Dr. LeBron, how does one make their big donation tax deductible to the foundation that's doing wondrous things?
Yes, we're always taking that. You don't have to wait until the week before the White Week out. You can do that all year round, especially if you have an idea for something that would maybe be at our auction, our silent auction, or something that you would want to give as a door prize. We're always taking those all year round, and so you can contact me, and you can talk to Nicole Batten. Thanks, Chris.
All right, any other questions for Dr. Wolford? Yes.
If I can follow up on that, those of us who've reached the age where we must take out our ID, it's very easy to make donation to the foundation.
Thank you very much. Right. Any other comments or questions about Dr. Wolford? All right, thank you. So we've got a guest speaker coming up. Mr. Cassie Lejeune, he is the Director of Conservation Programs at the Top Louisiana Production Limited. He's here to talk about some of the programs that are going on. You know that us at Nichols have worked with us on it several times. We're monitoring a lot of the work that you've done on the coast. And I can testify that the work that you do is well done and that fish, shrimp, crabs, all benefit from that stuff. So I think we're here with Cassie.
Good morning, everyone. Happy to be here and thanks to BTNEP for the invite. We like the opportunity to get in front of you folks and other folks to talk about what we do. Honestly, we probably don't do the best job at spreading the word about what Ducks Unlimited does. My presentation today will be kind of twofold. First, I'll kind of get into a few high-level things about what we do and how we operate, and then I'll get into some specific projects and give some updates on stuff that's happening in the BTNEP geography. First I'll mention is that most people in this room know what Ducks Unlimited is, but a lot of people don't. We often get the comments that people say, "Oh, are y'all an apparel company? Y'all make t-shirts and hats?" Some people think that it's a hunting club down in Grand Street, Louisiana, that their uncle's associated with. And although we do support hunting, although we do provide apparel and make apparel, that isn't our sole purpose. Our main purpose is conservation. We've been a 501c3 nonprofit organization since the 1930s. Our origins were based up in Canada when we saw a decline in waterfowl populations and waterfowl habitat as a result of the Dust Bowl. As a result of that significant drought period. And we had a handful of grassroots conservationists that stepped up and decided to do something about it. And that started with conservation up in Canada in the prairies, then it moved down to Mexico in the 1970s, and then it spread into the United States in the 1980s. And since the 1930s, we've delivered over 19 million acres of habitat conservation across North America. And so us in doing that, we use a tagline that we're the world's leader in wetland conservation. Louisiana is important to us Unlimited. We have two priority one areas within our planning documents that are assigned to Louisiana, the Gulf Coast Plain, the Mississippi Alluvial Valley. It's a level 1 landscape conservation priority, equal to anything else in the United States. And because of that, we have a lot of emphasis on Louisiana. We have an office in Lafayette, Louisiana, where we have about 15 to 20 people, including part-timers. And then we also have an office in Monroe, Louisiana, that handles the Mississippi Alluvial Valley. Plus, we have Amanda Blazan. Most of you guys probably know Amanda, have crossed paths with Amanda. She's based out of Houma, with our partnership with ConocoPhillips. She's embedded in that office in Houma. So we do have a good presence across the state of Louisiana. And across the state of Louisiana, we do a lot of different project types. We have a strong emphasis on coastal Louisiana because of the needs that exist there. But we do work throughout the coast, near shore to the coast and up the valley. On coastal projects, we do typical stuff that you see, like terracing and marsh creation and shoreline protection and crevasse projects on the river. But it also expands out to us doing wastewater units in inland areas, work on impoundments that include structures and pumps and levees, and we've even done some acquisition work. We've done some nutrient reduction, water quality work. We've also done some freshwater, cypress tupelo swamp type work, and even reforestation efforts in the valley, in the Mississippi Alluvial Valley, in partnership with NRCS. Our first project in Louisiana was in 1986, 1985, 1986 at Marsh Island Refuge, which is located in the central part of the coast. It's LBWF Refuge. We did that in 1986, and it's been a roller coaster ride up to a point of a lot of success over the last few decades. This graph here shows our conservation delivery, the dollars spent on conservation over the last 17 years, and you can see that we've had some growth here in the recent times. This past fiscal year that we closed out in July of last year, we spent over $21 million on conservation work in Louisiana. And we're very proud of that because that was a record year for us. It was $5 million more than the previous year, and it was double what we did 10 years ago. So we're very excited about that. But this graph, the lighter color, reddish color is donations, private dollars, and the bluer color is public dollars. So this gives you an idea of how our business model works. We take a dollar that's donated to us, and we magically, through grants and other things, turn it into over $6.50 in money spent on conservation. So why, you may ask, why have you had that increase in recent past? And it's due to many different reasons. Some of it is staffing capacity, more resources, and that sort of thing. But a lot of it is due just being opportunistic. There's been a lot of money that's been floating around out there for the last several years. An example of that is NCRF, ECRF, National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. Some of this coastal resiliency funding, we've been pretty successful at tapping into that, to the tune of almost $30 million in funding over the last several years, if you include all the match funds. And then another good example of that is NALCA. NALCA is our bread and butter, North American Wetlands Conservation Act, federal funding to do wetland work. We typically are writing 3 full NALCA grants a year. Back, if you go back several years, it was $1 million a pop. We write 4 grants and we get $4 million, right? Well, here recently, NALCA has changed. They've increased the amount of money you can get. It's now a max of $3 million. So, hey, we're opportunistic. We're about $3 million. So instead of getting $6 million for 6 grants, nowadays we could get $16 million for 6 grants. So that helps speed up the process of us delivering conservation. This slide here is a listing of a bunch of projects: Southwest Louisiana, Southeast Louisiana. Don't feel like you have to read all of it. It's just more to try to impress you guys, to show, hey, yeah, look at all that stuff that they got going on. He's got $50 million, almost $50 million in their pocket to do conservation work in coastal Louisiana. This is specific to the southern part of the state. So $50 million, and they also got $10 million in requests that are out there that are pending. We prioritize Southeast Louisiana. We've got a lot of work going there. You see the little stars next to the names of the projects. Those all indicate work in the BTNEP geography, stuff that we're doing, in y'all's backyards, in y'all's priority areas. We recognize the need in the BTNEP geography for conservation, and we put a lot of emphasis there. Partnerships, I often say in presentations, it takes a village to raise a conservation project, just like it takes a village to raise children. We can't do it alone. We don't work in a vacuum. It takes partnerships. It takes us working with federal government, state, parishes, working with other NGOs. We work with corporations, foundations, you name it. We work with it. This is not everybody. It's just kind of an example, just to highlight it. The diversity in partnerships. But that's what it takes. To get funding, people want to see partnerships. So we feel that we do a decent job of putting the right pieces of the puzzle together to gain money. And a good example of that is our ConocoPhillips partnership. This partnership's been ongoing for over 10 years. They've invested a lot in us. We've invested in them. They give us money, the seed money, to go out and get grants and do good conservation work in coastal Louisiana. Today, we've had about 22 projects. We estimate about over 20,000 acres of benefits and over $50 million invested in that partnership. A lot of projects that have been delivered. We got stuff that's ongoing. I'll talk about that in a minute, and even work that's planned out for the future. And with this partnership, we do a wide variety of coastal restoration projects, but primarily in that geography, in those basins that are within that footprint of the National Estuary Program, as shown in these labels on the map. Now, let's transition. Let's move on to giving examples of projects. I'll talk briefly about stuff that was recently completed, stuff that's currently ongoing, and stuff that's planned for the near future. Due to time, I can't get too far back and can't get too far forward, but I'd like to give you guys some examples of some of the work that we have going on in the BTNEP geography. First one I'll mention is a project we did in partnership, actually with Mark Snyder sitting in the back. He's the one that kind of kicked this off and handed it off to us. This is an example of an acquisition project that we finished up in our fiscal year 2024. We worked with City Park of New Orleans, who own the property called Cuba Island, which is in St. Charles Parish, not too far from here, right next to Salvador Wildlife Management Area and Lake Hiwachi, if you're familiar with those names. City Park wanted to sell the property, kind of liquidate the property to generate some funding for other City Park priorities. We got involved, we stepped in, worked with City Park, worked with Wildlife and Fisheries, wrote a grant, secured money, purchased the property, closed on it, turned it over to LBWF to be permanently protected in perpetuity in the WMA system, open for public access forever and ever. If that property would have been sold on the private market, it could have been extracted from the WMA system and there would have been a loss there. So we're very proud of that. We don't do a lot of acquisition work, but this is a good example of one where we acquired 2,500 acres and gave it to the state to be permanently considered temporary wildlife management area. Next one I'll talk about is our Do Large Marsh Enhancement Project, which is in partnership with Tim Allen and Apache. Tim's here today. This project is a neat project in that we coupled 3 different grants together. We coupled a NIFWIF grant and 2 NAWCA grants to kind of pool over $7 million worth of funding to do a large terracing effort, a little bit of levee work and a water control structure. In addition to Apache, also included Harryburg Corporation property to enhance about 3,700 acres. You see all the partners listed here. A key partner in this was, of course, Terrebonne Parish. It is in the Terrebonne Basin. The map shows here we had 2 different project areas, one near the Falbrook Canal and one near the Foes Canal, if you're familiar with that, or even the HNC, it's right adjacent to it. This is an aerial shot of this project. All of it was completed in calendar year 2024. The Harryburg stuff wrapped up more recently than the Apache stuff, but this is a good picture of a drone picture of the Apache work near Falbrook Canal. It was about 115,000 linear feet of terraces. They look great. There was aquatics growing out there before, but we feel certain that what we've done to stabilize this area and protect this area, we'll see that expand, and we provided much better habitat diversity in here than what it was. There had been some loss, and we helped to kind of stabilize that area. So we were proud of that one. Next, I'll move on to Port Fourchon. Port Fourchon was mentioned earlier. Port Fourchon is a great spot to do conservation work. We've picked up a project at Port Fourchon dating back to 2021. We started construction in 2023. This project is ongoing as we speak. It includes terraces, it includes living shoreline work, it includes black mangrove plantings, smoothbore plantings. Shout out to Restore Retreat that helped us with the black mangrove planting efforts. We did a volunteer effort back in December, and we have another one planned for April. So please reach out if you're interested in getting out and planting some mangroves. We're happy to have you guys. But this project is unique in that it started off as about a $2 million project. And thankfully, we were able to get a lot of people, a lot of partners on board to ramp it up to $4.5 million. Like I mentioned, it's under construction currently. We have terraces both north of the port and east of the port. I'll show a picture. The stuff on the east side of the port, we tried to mimic some old natural sheer stranded beach bridges. And on the far north side, we did more of a grid pattern. And then if you can see here, you can see some of the living shoreline modules that were deployed, some of Matrix's product along the toes of some of the levees. I'm happy to report that once we wrap that project up, which will be wrapping up this summer, we've got a phase 2 lined up. We've got $6.5 million to do a phase 2 effort. This will be on the east side of the elevated highway. So when you're driving down the Port Fourchon right now, you can see terraces being built on the right-hand side. Years from now, you'll be seeing them built on the left-hand side. So we're excited about that. It'll be another 100,000 linear feet of terraces in Port Fourchon. Next, I'll jump to the western side of Terrebonne, western Terrebonne in the kind of penchant sub-basin, an area that receives a lot of influence from the Chafai River. ConocoPhillips and EU has been doing a lot of work out in this area over the years, putting in structures, kind of helping reduce flooding stress to the north, enhancing marsh to the south by getting fresh water where it needs to go, doing some dredging to move water. And then also, when the river gets really low, limiting salinity impacts in this area. This project we have a project under construction currently to do some maintenance dredging to kind of reestablish a old historic boundary of what used to be kind of that dividing line between fresh and saline marshes. And this area has a real narrow transition from fresh to salt marsh. So this project is key in trying to protect some of that freshwater marsh. We've got a phase 1 project that's under construction currently. They kicked off work in and around Christmas time of last year, and they'll be under construction through kind of the spring of this year. About $1.15 million worth of dirt work. Dupre Brothers is our contractor. And here's just a picture kind of looking at Cameron Valley, looking towards the east. You can just see some of that dirt work that's going on. Next, we'll jump over to the Grand Bayou area of Plaquemines Parish. If you're familiar with the Grand Bayou Village, that's kind of near here. If you're familiar with West Point Lahatch, it's another reference landmark. We got another large terracing project, about $5.3 million worth of terracing and plantings to do 90,000 linear feet in this geography, enhancing up to 1,700 acres if you including some of the open water areas between terraces. This project's under construction. It started in January last year and will be under construction through the summer months of this year. Here's a drone picture of the terraces that are on the ConocoPhillips portion of the project, but we also have terraces on Brad Johnson portion of the project, kind of near Bayou Rancheneer. We will be building all of these terraces here. And then we also have another $1 million plus to kind of add on to this phase 2 effort. And this project is very complementary to the VA 240 Rancheneer Bridge Modification project that was done by CPRA. Next, we'll jump back to kind of the Highway 1 Bayou Lafourche area. We have a project that's fixing to get started. We'll be soliciting bids pretty soon, probably at the end of this month or next month. This is another project in partnership with Tim Allen and Apache, amongst other partners as listed here. Another terracing project, living shoreline project. You can see there's a recurring theme of us doing a lot of terracing projects. They're very cost effective, they're easy to fund, and they provide a lot of good benefits. This one has a large living shoreline component, 2,000 linear feet. This one is located right along the alignment of the new elevated bridge that's being constructed right now to go down to Port Fourchon. The idea behind this one is to kind of help protect the levee, help protect Old Highway 1, maybe even help provide some protection for the elevated highway. $6.3 million. We're currently in the process of building the oyster modules with matrix and nanos. That's happening as we speak. And as I mentioned, we'll be bidding out the actual dirt work here in the near future. We also have a pending proposal for $1.4 million to extend the project north. It's a proposal to CPRA through the Parish Matching program. We work with LaFouche to put that thing together, but hope to expand the project to provide some additional protection to the South LaFouche levee district. I'm very thankful to CPRA and their efforts to partner with us. They're a big contributor of ours, and they're very helpful to us. They let us use match and other things to get our job done. Next, we'll go on the far north side of the BTNEP geography in the Barataria-Terrebonne area. We have a swamp restoration project up in this area. It's a continuation of what was done by EPA in Quipro back in 2018. They initiated this effort. They did a good, very effective project to improve some of the swamp habitat, to let it breathe, to allow for ingress, egress, to alleviate flooding stress. And we just basically piggybacked on what they did. We were able to secure $620,000. That funding's in hand. We plan to go to construction on this project later this year. It'll essentially be more gapping in small banks. This is just a map kind of overview where that project's located next to Lake Zalmans, if you're familiar with it. Mississippi River's to the north. You can see some of the local communities and kind of geographic references, so you kind of knew where that project is located. Got two more, and then I'll let you guys go. I know you'll probably get tired of hearing this, but Bayou Lewis Phase 5, we're doing a lot of work in Bayou Lewis area. This is on the east side of Bayou LaFouche, near the Bayou Lewis Bridge. We secured additional $3.9 million to do some extra work in this area, both south and north of the ridge. This work will be starting up later this year. Most of this falls on the Conoco property. And then we also have an E&D project in this area. E&D project, engineering design. We have money to go out and scope out a few project features, a ridge restoration project, a large terrace project, and a living shoreline project, all on the east side of Bayou LaFouche. This was funded by NIFWIF. This work is ongoing as we speak. At the end of the day, we plan to have 30% design, permit drawings, and a semi-shovel-ready project ready to go for whatever funding becomes available. So we're excited about this one, having something teed up on the front end. Last thing I'll mention before I close, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about real briefly other programs that we have throughout Louisiana. It's not just coastal stuff like I mentioned earlier. We have other efforts that concentrate on mottle duck habitat and preserving mottle ducks as a species. Grassland work for mottle ducks. We have a rice stewardship program in Southwest Louisiana and North Louisiana. Rice is important for ducks. It's great habitat, and we're out there working with NRCS and other partners trying to keep rice in the landscape. And then we support research. Mentioned earlier, Nichols, partnered with Nichols on things. Quentin and his guys have helped us with some monitoring, but even we also help fund some research to help guide us and have science lead what we do in coastal Louisiana and across the nation. Anyhow, that's all I got for today. Thank you guys again. Thank you for letting me be here and presenting to y'all and giving you guys an update. I'll be around, happy to answer questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys. I'm just amazed by the amount of work you guys do. We have time for a question for anybody. Yes, sir.
Hey guys, this is all amazing stuff and all the local partners, obviously very important. It's kind of a high level question, but how would you say Louisiana or even post Louisiana or even more granular is doing compared to other parts of deep use activities of the valley and other areas? Just, on a funding type, spending or acreage type.
That's a good question, Mr. Bourgeois. I ran the numbers last year, and Louisiana, we're third across the country in DU investments in conservation. Number one is Texas, number two is California, and number three is Louisiana. So we put a lot of work in Louisiana, but there's a lot of work to be done. I think in Louisiana we have probably the greatest challenge, as everybody knows, some of the issues We are in the top three.
That's impressive.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, Hanson,
Yes, sir.
not so fast. I just had you mentioned this, but I wanted to mention a little more about it, I guess, in my previous life, I guess we had the pleasure, obviously, of partnering with Consolidated and allowing you guys to use state spending dollars to beef up your market grants. Your market grants to make them much more competitive, and hopefully that's been, it's been a good thing for everybody, I guess. And I just want to mention that, so if anybody in the room or anybody listening to this, if they're spending federal dollars on restoration, those dollars can be used to assist Consolidated in competing for grants. And so, it's a win-win, obviously, if it's, money that's being expended anyway, there's no harm. Honestly, the person that's expended it, and it can really help us to learn it out and continue their mission. So, he did mention that, but I just wanted to point that out. That's a good way to get involved and partner with Cassidy and what the customer is, doing the extra work.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. That's a really good note. If CPRA wasn't there helping us, letting us use their work as in-kind match, we can almost board up the doors. They're part of 90% of what we do, and we're very, very thankful for their partnership. Thanks, man.
All right, thank you, Kathy. All right, next speaker is Mr. John Troutman, and he's from CPRA, and he has headed the Northern Field Office for more than 15 years. And full disclosure, John and I go way back. We were an undergraduate together, got our degrees at the same time when we started a graduate program. We spent many days in the Chapel Basin, changing all kind of stuff. So glad to see Don, but he's here to talk to us about some freshwater diversion work.
Okay, thank you for that introduction, Quentin, and I'll share a quick story because every time I think Quentin, I see him.
Oh.
I see Quentin, we're on the dock, in the Chapel Basin, we have a floating dock, which we actually was a great setup. Cooking a little freshly caught sac-a-lait bouillon. Yeah. Maybe it was sauce pecan.
Yeah.
So, good memories. We're glad to be here this morning, to talk about, some of the CPRA, in particular Davis Pond, but some, the work that's going to be, moving forward, hopefully. And so to start with Davis Pond, I'll start just step back for a second and since we're here and talking about Barataria in general, to remind everyone that there's a lot of diversions that are on the landscape from before, there's some planning and some that are further out in planning. In particular, down lower Plaquemines, back in the 90s, there were a couple of small freshwater sites. And then on the east side of the river, Carnarvon and Davis Pond were built by the Corps of Engineers in the early 90s and then in 2000. So I'll talk a little bit more specifically on Davis Pond. I wanted to point this out just for okay. So on to Davis Pond. It is a freshwater diversion, and the purpose of this project was to introduce freshwater to the basin to reconnect the river with the basin, to benefit fisheries, and provide some other ancillary benefits that I'll show you. We've been able to measure with the project. There were specific objectives, a couple related to marsh, enhancing vegetation there by reduction of salinities, and then a little bit of marsh loss, knowing that there was some component of sediment with fresh water, even though not full intention. And of course, kind of the real basis figure of the project of increasing the productivity of fishing in the bottom. So, I'll go over some of the features. It was constructed back in the early 2000s. The Corps of Engineers conducted the construction. It's basically four box culverts. So culverts that cross, and you can see in the diversion is in the foreground there on the river. Where we did cross multiple infrastructures. There's two railroads that are across River Road, and then further down, you see a crossing, that's Highway 9. So this channel is conveyed from the river, 4-mile conveyance channel, so it reaches the upper portion of Davis Pond, which we call the ponding area. I want to point out too that this project, a lot of when projects like Pink Levees with 4 engineers, they construct them, and we partner with them, and they turn those projects over, and usually those levies are, it's on the local sponsors to do all the O&M, all the costs associated with that. In this case, this project not only was built by the Corps, but we partnered with them, and they still partner with us on the phase and everything going forward. We as CPRA, in the local New Orleans office, we are in charge of the operations. As far as, and I'll cover the community that we have. And then St. Charles Parish is under contract with us, and they do the day-to-day operations maintenance. So they're doing all the regular maintenance, and when we are operating, they're the ones pulling the levers, if you would. So this is the upper part of the project. It's called, we call it the ponding area. 9,400 acres. And there's a couple of features that I'll point out. So I talked about the channel you see right down the middle there, but there's guidelines in this project. Some like some of the other versions I mentioned earlier, they just go out into the open wetland. Well, this is the guide levee system. It's more the sedimentation portion basin of the project. So there's east and west guide levees that need to be maintained. And then along the top or the bottom of the picture, bottom right, the top of Lake Ottawashi, that is the rock that was put there during the initial construction. Since the initial construction, there's been a lot of opening channels that were needed to be constructed to get full discharge out of the project in the early days. Okay, so I mentioned it's based on salinity. These are the salinity goals back from when the project was designed. And there's a 5 parts per thousand isohaline and a 15. And so the idea behind the project was to introduce water to be able to push back salt water and to maintain the kind of more productivity, higher productivity zone between that 5 and 15 parts per thousand line. I mentioned the committee, not quite as large as this, but maybe 25 people. We do have an advisory committee, which we meet every year, and we do an annual, or we develop an annual operations plan. And that is on that committee. I see Michael and Andrew in the back. We've been serving on that committee for a number of years. So without going, I didn't put a slide of the particular operations plan. Having just a little bit of time here. I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but real briefly. So in the first half of the year, our flow season, we're really operating to try to reach down to the 15 parts per thousand line to impact, salinity further down. And of course, that's when we have the river, so we're able to do so. Actually later in the summer and in the fall, we're having a river, so to do that. So we're generally pulsing this time of year, and as of now, we have small pulse for 1 week in January, kind of during the dust split, and then we're currently operating right now. We have a pulse, we're probably up to 9,000. That's what we're shooting for. I set it at 9,000, and there's a little bit of variation in with the river and tidal influence. So we fluctuate between 9,500 and 8,500 this time of year. So we just started that February 3rd, and we're going into monitoring conditions in the basin. Here's an example of last year's data and last year's pulse. So you see, we started around the same time, February. We did a pretty large pulse, kind of dialed it back a little bit after a few weeks, and then had a smaller, around 4,000 CFS pulse. But I forgot to mention on the other slide, so when we're not pulsing and we're not delivering, we have what we call a baseline discharge, or baseline flow. It's around 1,000 feet per second. So we're rarely shut the diversion down completely. But if you look at the graph here, you can see that it's been shut down. There's instances where there's a lot of regulations there, like oil spill in the river, for example. We had one last year. They had to shut it down, for example. when we get into, like we did in 2003, and there's drought conditions, we get into a situation where we could potentially have backflow in Marsh too. So we shut down the let's see, what am I missing? Okay, so yeah, really, this boat last year was 57 days. And we have just some statistics there. As part of this project, of course, you imagine we want to know what the impacts are, so there's a pretty robust monitoring program. We have a lot of gauges out there, some specifically for the project. If you're familiar with our CPRA CRIMS wetland monitoring program, there's those gauges. We use data from all sources that we can, and CRIMS is a big part of that. Same thing with vegetation. We don't have specific vegetation monitoring in the project we did early on, but we basically use the program information now. And for wildlife and fisheries, in particular for marine fisheries, we have enhanced the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries program. They had a marine fisheries monitoring program going back to the 60s or 70s. But when these projects came online, they responded and looked hard, and we've enhanced those projects by providing extra funds and additional stations and times of year doing certain monitoring. And of course, there's the spatial monitoring. We've got that related, we're actually conducting some analysis that we haven't done in a long time, 4 days on expenditures from the budget. And so here's just an example of the, this is during the flow season. I'm going back to 23, some data that we had. I mentioned the isohaline targets in the beginning. So you can see on this map where there's the target line versus the interpreted line where we took all this limited data that we have. And I'd say, like in this case, we missed our target. Right? We were a little high during this diversion, during this flow period, even though we had some fairly much losses early on. 23, I do have to mention that was an extreme drought. So it was a special year there. And even like I said, even with our big falls, Sundays got worse throughout the season. Here's just an example of I mentioned the marine fisheries sampling program. A lot of different types of gear types, trawls, seines. There's VLNS, there's some oyster component stations that are measured further down basin. I didn't mention, so I guess we spend close to $400,000 a year on all these monitoring programs. That's just for data sampling. So in addition to our monitoring, there's obviously outside research. It comes out periodically. We're not really funding that through the diversion program, but through other, other sources of funds we've had this. So we would just incorporate some of that information every time it comes out. And I just wanted to show this one real quickly. I mentioned the ponding area. The ponding area is really where the major impacts are as far as non-salinity impacts further down basin. So in this case, this study covered or analyzed with some soil samples back in 2007, and did their own measurements in 2018. And just the main point on this one, it is increasing sediment content into the ponding area, into those marshes. And the path or the shape that you see, the longer one is, that's the main flow path of the diversion. So it all makes sense. You can see it on the ground. We do a lot of, this is what our trend site is right in the major flow path, or right off the edge of that. You are getting, you can see with the soil core, there's mineral accumulation on top of the peat marsh. That's at the bottom of that core. And yeah, and so at the site too, so this trend site was set up, it was a thick, mass floating marsh, very common in the Barataria area. That site, with the addition of minerals over these years, has actually seemingly, based on our measurements, attached now, and it's actually growing vegetation. vegetation, or I'm sorry, forest vegetation. Here's just a look at that, back from 2010, transitioning to more recently. And you can see this drop, the basin in that main flow pattern where I showed you. There's a lot of, primarily willows that are starting up. We'll be seeing some seeding and actual kinds of small trees. We've seen some cypress seedlings. And surprisingly, not too many tallows yet. Another one, just to kind of go around with that main flow path and looking at some land area change. Just write it all paper. Basically, you can see that red line down there, if we're looking pre-diversion versus post-diversion, it's pretty wide. High variation there, and the results were close to 500,000, little 100,000 acres. So I'm sure it's obviously somewhere in between there. As I mentioned earlier, we're doing some work with USGS to get some more updated numbers for 24. And you can see it on the landscape. So 98 was when they were digging the channel. And like I said, early 2000s, so that's what the basin looked like. Oh, I should mention the outline on the one left. This is a volume fisheries management area. And some of that's even been expanded with an off grant that Ashley was talking about. And so, looking at the image to your right, you can see the riverine look to it, and that's the visual increase of what lane I just mentioned. It might have been and sort of what I have on kind of the big impacts. I do have to mention the area is pretty robust. It does take a lot of another $500,000 a year probably in maintenance on the project, even with some guide levy projects that are ahead of us that are going to cost a little more. So, but we did just complete a major dewatering of the structure, and then this is a picture to show you inside of one of the culverts. Before we conducted all this work, we did some replacement of like 8 seals and did a full inspection of the culverts. And all in all, things were looking good and in good shape. So that's really what I had, just kind of a big overview of Davis Pond. I mean, I can get into some real specifics if we have a little more time. But I do want to report that we do, out of our office, we have an annual report that we do. It's kind of a summary of a lot of the different data types that I just went over. Wildlife and Fisheries is part of their contract with us, and on their own, they do a specific report that we pull in ours. Of course, Wildlife and Fisheries does stock assessments every few years. So we try to put in all the data that we can. And then I guess back in 2000 was our latest third-party contracted report. We said, hey, here's all the data. Let's take a look at all the impacts. And so we're due for a new, we're trying to put in our budgets for next fiscal year. And of course, all our data, just like CPRA, every bit of data we have is served up, and we can access it through our SIMS program, or specifically with our current program. So that's all I have on kind of what past and current. And Brian Zeno was the second part of this presentation this morning, but he called it 6 more. So I'm going to cover. You can change it one? Yeah, thank you. So while we pull up the slides.
Did he send you all his jokes?
His first joke was we're going back to the future with the first slide. So I'll explain that in a second. The first slide you can see, there's only 3 slides here, but first one is, here it is, modifications of Davis Pond. So this is a project that we started way back in 2009. We'll go into the details, but the project was put on hold, but we're interested, the state is, and so is for in restarting a study would be a modification of Davis Pond. We're looking into more than just, so I mentioned it's a salinity goal, right? So I know the state has some interest in looking into the project and maybe be able to operate at different times, at different capacities. And maybe focus on a little bit more of the other goals of the work rather than enhancement goals. So I don't have a whole lot of information on it. I was fairly involved with it back in 2009 and 10 when it started. But I promise you, we'll have seasons stay where and we can look into ways we can better modify the operations of the project. Some of the other work, kind of future work, like I said, further out. In 2023 master plan, there was a set of what we call upper basin diversion that we have as a program now. Like for example, in the Barataria, there was one. There's one up in the very upper part of the basin around the lake zone. So that would be the idea there is to put a diversion there in the upper basin for swamps around the zones and to influence get benefits from the river further up basin. Davis Pond is not quite the top of the basin. And then truthfully, last year, I think in 2023, we presented those data at a committee last fall. We had a lot of folks from this area. I mean, it was related to the drought. We had a lot of fishermen up there, heck fishermen, for example. We had a lot of complaints that, hey, we operate Davis Pond more. And they had a lot of salinity impacts all the way up to the sounds. And then the last one I'm least familiar with is the Lower Roach River Management Program, and that's again working with CORE, how to best utilize the Lower River with all the different outlets and all the different, partners, the navigation folks and all that. So I don't have a whole lot of information. Sorry, I can't answer that, but I did want to present that. And that's my answer.
All right, thank you, John.
Well,
Any questions, John? Comments?
I have a question.
Okay, you have a question?
So John, assuming that Mid-Barataria is able to move forward and it becomes active as a diversion, how is that going to affect the operations? Use your crystal ball, project into the future. How's that going to affect the operations of Davis Pond going forward? What do you think is going to happen with that?
okay, thank you. So it's not a coincidence that we're restarting modification of Davis Pond, because that's one of the ideas of if the Barataria were to hit the ground, and we know with our salinity authorization, then we're going to have to change Davis Pond's authorization because it's with the Mid-Barataria, for example, those goals are out of the window. So how would it operate if there's Mid-Barataria? I think it would be, it could be something of starting before Mid-Barataria would open gates to kind of freshen up the upper basin and then allow Mid-Barataria then to start operating, or in times of high salinity and drought like we saw in 2003, to just enhance that upper basin, to keep fresh water flow there. And frankly, if you're running the Mid-Barataria and for sediment deposition, then we open Davis Pond at the same time. So it's also concurrent with it, in my opinion. So that's John Troutman's professional opinion, not on the Mid-Barataria team.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, John. You're welcome.
Right, well, similar to District Lavina, hopefully Colonel Jones not able to be here with us today. He not sick, was getting pulled in a different direction. So happy to say though that Dick Landry will be with us to talk to us about the Upper Barataria Risk Reduction Project. Dick is the Assistant Deputy District Engineer, the Deputy Chief Programs and Project Management Division at the Walsh District. So Dick, welcome, and looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Thank you, Brent. Morning, everybody. I'm kind of loud, so everybody hear me getting back. All right, my kids always tell me I'm a big mouth and loud. I guess what boys will do that to you. But yes, I'm here pitch hitting for, Colonel Jones. He was unable to be here. So thank you for welcoming me. I'm not a West Pointer like Colonel Jones. I'm a UL Raging Cajun. And, Cajun, South Louisiana. But it ain't like Landry, I guess you figured that out. So I'm gonna be talking about, Upper Barataria Basin Risk Reduction Project, UBB. So I'll just call it UBB for short. But I am happy to speak a little bit beyond that. John Trump just talked about, the Davis Pond future. And the Corps is standing by and poised, to be a partner in the future. So, perfect segue, John. Anyway, back to UBD. This is essentially the last major levee system in southeast Louisiana that was constructed. It's a recommended 30-mile levee system. Flood walls and et cetera will be constructed to our 1% storm event design. So the biggest thing is these 800 square miles that include the communities of 7 parishes: Ascension, Assumption, Jefferson, Lafourche, St. Charles, St. James, and St. John the Baptist. So essentially it's bounded by the north and east by the Mississippi River levees, to the west by Bayou Lafourche, and the south it extends slightly past Highway 90. So the big thing is this will bridge the gap between the Hisler system in New Orleans, hurricane storm damage, perimeter protection around St. Charles Parish, Orleans, basically the metro area, and the Morganza to the Gulf project. So this is a gap that we realize exists, and the Upper Barataria Basin Risk Reduction Project will bridge that gap. So we realize that it exists, and it'll close off South Louisiana to the Gulf of Mexico with the storm events. That's the big thing. So, Chief's report, I'm going to walk you through a little bit of the history of it, just so everybody's aware, essentially over the last 3 years. Chief's report was signed in January 22, and funding was received in the amount of $8 million for pre-construction, engineering, and design. Construction authority was provided through WRDA, that's the Water Resources Development Act 2022. Initial funding is being used to design reaches G and H currently, representing 9 miles of the system. So of the 30-mile system, we're going to be addressing about a third of it to start. One of the big things I see is we're incorporating a lot of lessons learned from the West Shore Levee project on the East Bank. Essentially, you build in levee out virgin marsh, swamp, and we know everything consolidates. So a lot of the lessons we've experienced with that project are being incorporated. So that leads to higher design success. So pre-construction engineering is being led by St. Paul District of the Corps of Engineers. So it's a cooperative endeavor between St. Paul and New Orleans, but they have the design lead, but we're still engaged. We're working with all our partners on this. So key relationships are still here in New Orleans District, right down the road. But basically you get 2 districts for the price of 1. So it's a bargain. I hope that makes those happy and secures our jobs, right? So we're not going anywhere. And I think being part of the DOD, Department of Defense, it ensures our future here in South Louisiana. The two key agreements that have been executed with CPRA, the working kind MOU and the design agreement. So it's just going over that. The working kind MOU was executed in May of 2022. It essentially identifies what construction work CPRA seeks to conduct and receive credit for, including design and construction of levee mills, primarily reaches A through H. Kellogg Pump Station, Parity Canal Structure, and Bayou Dissolvent and Floodgate. Next slide. All right. So this good overview, and it shows everything we got going on. Like I said, we're working to complete the first set of plans and specs for Reach G East. And our project delivery team expects to request construction funds for an award in fiscal year 26. We're currently in fiscal year 25, which will end in September. So Order 24 directs the Secretary of the Army to study connecting UBD and Morganton to the Gulf system, so we're gonna bridge that gap. But primarily, early on, we'll be looking at Reach G East, which includes an access road, the access road bridge over the Gottschalk Canal, and 8,000 linear feet of levee. So we're anticipating the first batch of funding that we received through the president's budget to address that. So Reach G East is what we're seeing in step one. Just a little more history on this. The design agreement was executed in September 22. It basically says the Corps will undertake the design at full federal expense. So this will not be cost share. And this was using DERSA funds. So DERSA was the disaster relief supplemental of 2022. So those funds are in hand, and this includes planning, engineering, design of the levee, especially for reaches G and H of the UBB. And these design heights will be 14 to 16 feet, and it also includes all the features, including sets of culverts, a new access road, the new bridge, like I mentioned, and the access road in accordance with the chief's report. All right, so the basis of the design. 10% design documentation report, it was shared with CPRA. CPRA provided comments back to the team and is actually working great with us addressing. So we appreciate the early feedback from CPRA and the great cooperative that we have. So over the next 6 months, the PDT will be conducting H&H hydrologic and hydraulic modeling. So we want to complete the water velocity analysis for value developments. And actually that is completed, I'm sorry. And that confirmed no major impacts to fish. We're finalizing the levee design heights for all the reaches, A through H. And this will determine levee heights to inform construction schedules for future levees. And also, the interior impact analysis is ongoing. And that'll help quantify long-term environmental impacts. So we see in the next 6 months, a lot of this work will be done, and everything's moving along schedule. I think it's good. We definitely appreciate CPRA's assistance in everything, especially with acquiring rights of entry for surveys and geotechnical borings. Their help was instrumental in making that process expedited and set up everything along. So what we're currently seeing is the schedule has PNS completion for region G and H this fall, 2020. We'll be hosting a design summit so that all parties are in alignment in 2 weeks. That's going to be February 26th. Really, that's all the high points. So, if there are any questions? Yes, sir.
So one of the things that's always challenging when you have these massive projects that take a very long time to go through development and everything else, is that there are often other changes to these areas that are happening or may not be happening. I mean, in terms of that location, you know, some of the other ones maybe aren't as directly impacted, but they do change the hydrology and hydrographic modeling for this project. But, you know, we already heard earlier, which is upstream of this, but the, you know, modifications to the Davis Pond version. You got the mid-Barataria version in limbo at the moment. But, you know, in the coastal master plan, there's also an upper Barataria version. How are these other potential modifications being incorporated into the decision-making process for how this project is implemented for ahead?
Well, I think the strength is our communications with our partners. CPRA is, you know, whenever there's any concerns, they're sharing it with us. So anything that we think would impact our H&H modeling, we'll incorporate it. And if there's any changes, we'll pivot and we'll make sure everything's included. So we're not operating in a vacuum. It's a team effort, and I'm assuming we will incorporate any changes.
On the phone, a friend over here, I got Darryl Broussard from my team in the room, and Darryl's senior project manager in the project. So Darryl, give us a little feedback on that, if you don't mind.
If I was to add anything, I would say, when we develop these projects, we also try to look at what the future without the project would be. And so in our modeling, we take into account all of these different scenarios that might come up. If it's permitted or it's under construction, it'll be included in the models that we do. So when we do this hydraulic model and have this summit, it'll be discussed. It'll be an alternative, and we'll be able to see how they all coincide with each other and what the impacts would be.
Thank you, Darryl. Yes, sir.
We heard a talk earlier, mentioned by Sherville, and had a restoration program that had gas. That was the restoration to allow hydroelectric flows to go back and forth out of the project area. And the levee system is gonna, as I understand it, it's gonna have only one cap that it bioresolves. Are there other gaps that are gonna be in there that will basically then what the project in Sherville is gonna do? Do you remember the project?
No, sir, I'm not familiar with it.
Okay, so in Sherville, in 2018, they built 4 gap, they deconstructed spoil banks that were enclosing that area. And that was done to improve the hydrology going in and out, which is a well-known impediment to, for example, tree growth. If you would close it, you have less hydrologic fluctuations and you get less tree growth even does all the time. So the levee is also going to act as an impediment for flows. And I'm asking if you have any openings inside by designs in the levee system that can be open and closed.
I knew we do have additional culverts, but that's the only large scale. You know, and now, one thing we have done, sir, is the ROD included the EIS. And so we have addressed everything. We got a signed EIS and signed ROD for the Assistant Secretary of the Army. So I know all those features have been addressed. But as far as this exchange, it's only the one location up there.
Yeah, I think Wayne Blue was had a comment.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I'm representing the Association Levy Board, I'm the director of our Fish Levy District, and I think in my, but it's extracurricular, I have on one of our board members, that picture is in our office, because this project is basically in our district. And I can say that with the record of decision, all of the environmental impact statement has been addressed. One thing to keep in mind is that opening in by the Soundings is designed to be equal to the maximum flow that by the Soundings can take, because there's smaller restrictions upstream. Along reaches G and H, which the part that's being looked at for construction is really G East. G comes a little bit further towards Biofuge Ridge, and then H takes it from there. There will be some, likely from the discussion we had with the design team now, there will be some culverts that allow some interchange along the north, let's say the northwest side of G and H and the southeast side of G and H, because there is some existing, mostly small trennoses and things like that that allow, the currently interchange. So the main thing to think about it is that this is mostly an open system, like Marquesas to the Gulf is, which allows all of the natural flow to continue to take place. It is only closed in the event of a storm. But I would also suggest that, just like we're seeing in Marquesas to the Gulf system, the idea that, for example, the gate in by the Soundings will not only be a gate, but there'll be additional floodgates on either side of the gate that allow flow to come in. So if you did want to have an opportunity to manipulate that for flow regime or the future introduction of water into the upper Barataria Basin, you have a tool now to manipulate it with this gate as part of your ongoing management. So I think that the supplemental EIS, I should say with the ROD, the record decision and the EIS on this, is certainly going to assist it, right? So it's going into a lot of detail and paying attention to it.
a good question, because I think it is important that it doesn't restrict the water, but there may be a time where we want to restrict the water a little bit, and you would have these schools where you wouldn't have had water. And the board has been really good on this project, I'll say. Carol's great to work with, been doing this stuff for a long time. This project actually, in as far as getting through to the record of decision, is now leapfrogged over Marquez into the Gulf and other projects, because it's moved very, very quickly. You know, at first, when you hear that the St. Paul Division is designing a non-river levee system east and west and South Louisiana, you think, well, what could go wrong there, right? But it has been working pretty good, and because of the oversight of the local group. I mean, it's never fast enough for us, but that's just us, right, as much as anything else. But I just wanted to add those things, and thank you for this project. We're looking at continuing to do some working time project from where this stops, coming back towards the bottom of the bridge, but having this haul road and that section, and if we can get this gate built, we're gonna be able to do some flood fighting, that we would never be able to do otherwise. So, it's kind of cool.
Thanks, sir. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Did you say that there was gonna be a new bridge?
Yes.
Is that the Highway 9 bridge, or is there a bridge at the?
No, sir, not how we.
Over Batchelor now.
Okay.
So Batchelor Canal comes off of, basically via the Salmons, and this, you see the line running to the sort of southwest. The Batchelor Canal basically parallels Highway 90. And so where he's building this, in that picture at the bottom of the frame, where it says reach G East, that is basically the bridge in going over Highway 90. But to build this access road and leave the Batchelor Canal open or interchange, you have to have an access road bridge to get to that.
So everybody, have a wonderful day. More questions, comments? Thanks, Vic. So we're gonna hear about a project now that's being, proposed and conducted at Terrebonne Parish. Jason Broussard with Royal Engineers are presenting, but, they're doing, some good work with derelict vessel and marine debris removal in the parish. Who's here to tell us all about it? Jason, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. As mentioned, my name is Jason Broussard. First off, thanks for having us here today to present this project that we're trying to get done. My name is Jason Broussard. I'm with Royal Engineers on behalf of Terrebonne Parish as their consultant for disaster recovery for the hurricane work. My degree is in environmental science, and so I do have a passion for conservation, hunting, fishing, coast, estuary, environment purposes to keep those areas clean, free of pollution, and restored for our future generations. So, again, this was kind of a spin-off on our project. I worked at Terrebonne Parish. It came up for derelict vessels. There was cleanup back in 2015 on derelict vessels in Terrebonne Parish. So in addition to derelict vessels, marine debris, the problem here is prevalent throughout South Louisiana because of the access to the marshes, the bays, and the Gulf Coast. Lots of fishing activity, both commercial and recreational. Most of these, you'll hear me call them ABVs, abandoned derelict vessels throughout the program or throughout the presentation. Most of these are commercial fishing vessels. Also, there are some recreational and some industrial, company vessels as well. With these boats, when they reach the end of their life cycle or they get major damages, they just, at many times, the owners can't afford to keep them, and he or she stops fishing or they move on to vessels and they don't have the means or the needs to repair the vessels, so they just get abandoned and left on the banks. I'm sure we've all seen throughout any of the waterways down here in South Louisiana. The problem seems to just multiply because there's so many situations like this, and it just, over the years and the generations, they just stay there, they rot from the banks, and it just, a lot of times it attracts. It's kind of like when you see the washing machines and tires inside the road, those places tend to keep piling up those situations, so they just kind of multiply over the years. And not to mention any type of hurricane or tropical storm kind of magnifies the situation, makes it worse, because a lot of these vessels may have been in fairly good condition, and those hurricanes have supplied the last oil to them. It just can't work anymore. So for the vessels, they are litter, they're aesthetically unsightly. They provide environmental hazards such as, most of some vessels still have active oil and fuel tanks inside of them, so there's an environmental hazard there. And then also present is navigation, recreational and low traffic up in there. Depending on times of high tide, you may not be able to see some of these. A lot of the locals know that they're there, but a lot of the recreational fishermen that only get these areas a couple of times a year don't know they are there, so they do provide navigational hazards. How we got to this point, our initial discussions were with Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government Department of Public Works Director, Mr. David Rome. He mentioned that they had a program back in 2015, picking up a lot of these vessels, but they're still, like I said earlier, they're still there. So also discussions with the nuisance and abatement departments, and also some early on discussions with wildlife and fisheries. They were handling some of the ABVs and derelict vessel removals from Hurricane Ida. Unfortunately, Terrebonne Parish didn't get on that list, but I can't remember the guy's name in charge there. Several consultations, and he pointed me in the right direction. The parish is doing public notices through newspapers, town hall meetings, Facebook, etc. Trying to get the word out to the owners or potential owners. Some of the vessels may still be owned, but we just don't know because a lot of them are unmarked. So what we did is we had a survey performed, LiDAR and side scan surveys on these four waterways listed here. Terrebonne, Grand Caillou, East Caillou, and Dularche. And from those surveys, we've identified 232 ABVs. So I'll get into the project now. That was kind of the intro. As I mentioned earlier, we did surveys on these four waterways and through LiDAR and side scan sonar surveys, and detected 232 vessels. The vessel project, derelict vessel project and funding. First off, it started with Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government through their insurance settlement from Hurricane Ida. There was an allocation of $1 million to get started. It's not a large amount, but it's a way to get started. So with that money, we did the survey first to identify all of the areas that we were looking at and found those vessels that we were wanting to remove. So our activity to date is, along with the survey, we do have permit applications submitted for Terrebonne, not Grand Caillou. So anyway, we have it for all of Terrebonne for the removal work there. We anticipate that project to cost approximately $5 million. We only have $1 million. It's not enough. So in the course of that, we applied for a couple of other grants. The Boat US Foundation, which is in NOAA Boat US. The maximum amount we can request there is $1 million. We did that. We got selected to submit a full proposal on that. We hope to hear something in March to see if it was selected, and we'll be awarded that $1 million. And then also there was another grant that we applied for, the NOAA Marine Debris Removal. Again, we pre-applied there. We were selected to submit a full proposal on that one as well. and we did so just a couple of weeks ago, January 30th. That one was anticipated award date was a little later this year in October. The amount requested there is 5 million. They do give you a $10 million max, but when you go over 5 million, there's like caveats and strings attached. So we just want to stay safe there and, you know, apply for that 5 million and hopefully get that. So, you know, we're hopeful, that we can get, those 2 other grants for the parish and, make some production there with getting Steve Dusty removed. Go a little bit more into the project. So here's a bunch of data here. So for Barataria-Terrebonne, the LiDAR target list, there is approximately 39 vessels on the LiDAR targets and 14 on the side scan, with a total of 53 targets. When we did the surveys, we looked at a couple of different main criteria, such as a high degree points of latitude and longitude, six decimal points. The locations, whether they were on the east banks or the west banks, very high level description of the vessel. We thought it would be important to have the material type, whether it would fiberglass, aluminum, steel, whatever that may be, and also the length, estimated lengths and widths, and if there was any visible markings. The reason for that data is, you know, to put this out for removal bid, we need to have that detailed data for the companies to provide pricing. This is just some examples of some locations that we have pictures of. As you can see, most of them are pretty well derelict, abandoned, not in good use, or not able to be used. There are some, as I mentioned earlier, there are some vessels out there that are in decent or fair condition, although not great condition. So that's our intent with the public notices from the parish to put out. We're going to have the Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Office as well assist us at Water Patrol Division in putting the signs on the vessels and through the town halls. Hopefully get that word out. That way, vessels are owned by someone that we don't remove those there rightfully. Here's an example of a LiDAR image on the right. You can see how it accurately displays the length and the width. So we thought that was all good data, and obtaining that data to put out on the list. That's Barataria-Terrebonne. Here's the side scan targets. Some of these are submerged, so they're not visible by the naked eye in the, you know, when we travel down the bayou. There was an initial 40 targets of side scans. Some of our side scan surveys, but some of them were just unidentified debris piles and not vessels. So we had to remove some of those to just what we call vessel wreck targets. Here's the next one on Bayou Grand Caillou. We have approximately 94 LiDAR targets, 10 side scan targets, for a total of 104 vessel targets on Grand Caillou. Well, I forgot to mention earlier, on Barataria-Terrebonne, there's roughly 22 mile section of Barataria-Terrebonne. Bayou Grand Caillou is 12.5 mile section. And here's our list there. It's just a lot of data. These are our lists that we use to do, you know, for permitting and for advertising for requests for bids. Here's Bayou Petit Caillou. This is a 26 mile section, and we've identified 32 LiDAR targets, 12 side scan targets, for a total of 44 targets altogether. Again, just a lot of data here. See all the targets that they go up and down the colors. And last is that's Bayou Large. There was an 11-mile section there. We've identified 31 LiDAR targets, 12 side scans for a total of 43, down by UP Large. And then, for the grants, we have to come up with a way to measure the total length and the tonnage in order to provide estimated budgets for the grant. So, we came up with a formula for, estimating tonnage based on the length, just so some, general, dimensions and research for those types of vessels. So for the LiDAR surveys, we came up with, around 6,000 total feet with an estimated tonnage of around 1,500 tons. And for the side scan surveys, we got about 1,300 or 1,400 total feet of vessels with an estimated tonnage of 133 tons. So total, that's, 1,600 tons of material that we could potentially remove from the waterways. With that said, we created a budget for it based on an amount per ton, and that's the numbers that we use in our grant applications. That's pretty much it. Our next steps, we are in the process right now. Our status is to, obviously, we've identified the problem, that's been completed. Research the problem, identify the waterways, that's been completed. Identify the funding, we've completed that. We've only one has been granted so far, the insurance money. We've surveyed the waterways, those are all completed. The permitting is completed for Barataria-Terrebonne only, but that proved to be a fairly easy, not easy, but well, I guess an easy process. We didn't have much pushback, so we was able, from the time we submitted our permit applications to receiving the permits, it really only about 2 months long. I don't think that was very long at all, considering, all the different agencies involved and things like that. Our public notices, that's, we're working on that right now, that's in process. And we're drafting up our draft bid packages for advertisements for the Barataria-Terrebonne reach. That's in process now. The other bid packages, we're not going to be able to draft up and advertise until we get more funding to do those. So those have not been started. We have water monitoring activities scheduled for the grants, public relations, community members, organizations, able to mission. Through the grant application process, we've had to do letters of support. So I just did want to mention our partners and supports for the topic. So we got introduced to the BTNEP here. Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, Louisiana Department of Energy and Natural Resources, CPRA, BTNEP, DOMA, Terrebonne Coastal Department, United Home Nation, State Reps, Villian and Serang, State Senator Pricey, and U.S. Representative Higgins. So we got letters of support from all those people and organizations, and I did identify a few more organizations here today. So if we apply for more grants in the future, we can reach out to some. So that's pretty much it. Lily Jeffries is here with me as well today. She put together the presentation initially. We're in it today though. And so that pretty much wraps it up. If there's any questions, either she or I can answer those. Yeah, I think there was a question back here.
Oh, I'm wondering what will happen with the debris. I mean, basically making, putting it in a landfill or scrap heap, or I'm wondering about particularly the wooden parts of the boats. The old cypress is very hard to find nowadays. And the traditional wooden boat builders might be very interested in some of it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of the old cypress portion of it, but in our bid packages, we're emphasizing recycling as much as possible, especially for the steel and aluminum boats. So that'll be one of the things. We want to reduce the amount of landfill material as much as possible. So that's how we think. But thanks for mentioning the Cypress portion.
You know, the wooden road builders might be very interested.
Is the 5 million just to do Bayou Grand Caillou, or the 5 million to do all of it? That you
Well, I don't think 5 million is gonna be enough to do all of it. We have 1 million in insurance, and we're hopefully gonna get awarded 6 more million, so that'll give us 7 million. We believe that would handle probably about half or a little more than half of it. We just don't know yet because we haven't received bids back yet. We don't know the prices, exactly on those types of activities.
but the plan is to do Grand Caillou first.
Terrebonne first.
No,
Terrebonne.
It is Grand Caillou.
Oh, it is? Okay, I'm sorry. All right,
Yeah,
thanks a lot.
so that initial million that the parish has budgeted, like Jason was saying, the plan is to go out to the removal contract, and then we kind of have an idea of what we're playing with, but that initial million, the 33 identified in Grand Caillou, kind of like low-lying fruit, clustered together, mostly largely building. So the hope is to go in, float a lot of them out. There's 9 or so that were identified. They probably are gonna have to crane to a barge, get those out of the way, and then see what kind of funding we have left, and just keep kind of working down the list, kind of with that same mentality, and then hope that we get the grant funding so we can. So yeah, we're kind of gonna have to figure a lot of that, but just to try to maximize our funding, and that was kind of the point of the survey, to create like a really efficient, hopefully strategized list that can be attacked as funding becomes available.
And my last question is about the public engagement part of it. There's, and I'm not aware of it, and I live in that area, there must be laws or ordinances that say that you are responsible for your vessel. Is there any way to hold people accountable for abandoning these things, or once they become somebody else's problem?
I don't know too much about the laws and ordinances portion of it, but I think one of the things is that most of these don't have any markings. The numbers have been taken off, so they can't be really tied back to any particular owner. Of all of the 232, I think there might just be a handful, like 5 or 6, that there's markings on. So it's truly a nuisance in the form of we can't identify the owners. That's why the parish is going to be interested in that.
Yeah, and the Louisiana state law is after the 30 days of public notice that they can go ahead and take ownership, so we need to work through them. And yeah, like the few ones that do have markings, we're gonna have to try to figure out if we can identify an owner and notify them directly, but also through the permitting process, you have to identify and notify all the neighboring, the people, the residents, as well as any kind of commercial building that might be close by.
But there would be no fee or anything, like, let's say you do identify the owner, is there a fee for you removing the boat that they own, or no?
No, my understanding is that you can identify the responsible party, and you can go through a legal route to try to recoup funding from them to remove the vessel. But I don't think that we're gonna have too much luck there, but it is gonna be part of the process, yes.
Along one of the bumpers after Hurricane Katrina, when the vessels were removed by one of the contractors, it really made incredible amount of damage and erosion to the sides of the bayou. And so I'm hoping that as you look at contractors to remove these, that you don't do more damage to the side of the bayous for erosion and erosion purposes as those are being extracted. Because it really did cause significant damage in some of these other hotels.
We're bound by the permits there's some stipulations in the permits as far as the damage and the existing banks and bottoms and stuff like that. And we will have inspection, third-party inspection on the projects to ensure that the contractor is living up to those standards.
It's also been pretty recently, like in the last 20 years, when cleaning up by Lafourche they just sunk some of those derelict vessels in the bay. So is that part of y'all's,
No, not,
plan at all? So there's not gonna be any dumping in shallow water?
everything's gonna be either removed and brought to landfill or recycled.
Yeah.
As it stands.
You have a question in the back, Earl?
Is this directed just for derelict vessels, or are you gonna do marine debris general as well?
This is mostly directed to derelict vessels. I mean, they do have, houseboats or, they even ran across a few like piers that fell in the water and stuff like that, but our intent is for derelict vessels.
Another thing, have you had any interaction with the commercial fishermen who can tell you where some of these obstructions might be that would not necessarily come up with LiDAR or anything like that?
Not yet, but, it was brought to our attention and we do plan on having those conversations through the town hall meetings and just kind of reaching out.
I would recommend you also go to the fishery task forces in the state. You have a shrimp, an oyster, a finfish, a crab. These task forces are coordinated through wildlife and fisheries. You can get letters of support from them, and they have a wealth of information in terms of where obstructions are that they're aware of and the general public is not.
Thank you. There was one question.
Do you know how this compares to the 2015 removal as far as number of vessels removed?
I think the 2015 removal had 44 or 54 vessels on the list, so this,
Any other questions, comments? All right, thank you. No public comment, you might have anything you would like to say or announce the event coming up? Got for that.
Hey, hi, I'm Doug Daigle, postal studies at LSU, and then working with BTNEP on a grant to look at the watersheds in the upper part of the basin, and it's entailed having a series of Zoom workshops. And we're working to schedule another one, and these are looking at, the different bayous and waterways up there, primarily with water quality, trying to get a status and trends picture of it. These are open to anyone who's interested, and if you would like to attend the next one that we're going to have, which will probably be next month, we haven't set a date yet. Just get me your email, I'll put you on the list. They're on Zoom, so it's very easy. You'll get advance notice, and anyone who's interested is welcome to attend. So I just wanted to put that out there, and give you my email if you want, or just come up to me afterwards. But it's J.E. Daigle, D-A-I-G-L-E, at lsu.edu.
Okay, thanks. Anything else?
I don't think my microphone works over here, but, so in June, July, the National Marine Educators Association is hosting a conference. It will be held in Lafayette. It's actually hosted by the Southern Association of Marine Educators. We passed the deadline for submission of proposals and presentations, but there's still an opportunity for sponsorships or just not-for-profit organizations to be present. It is a national organization that I can give you that some of the concern to raise awareness of what we're doing there.
Very good. Thank you. Anybody else?
Excuse me, I'm Rebecca Trish with the Louisiana Wildlife Federation. We have an annual Conservation Achievement Awards program. The nomination period is still open. There's a lot of fantastic people in this room who do great conservation work. If you can think of a business, volunteer, organization, educator, communicator to recognize. It's Louisiana Wildlife Federation. Look us up on the website. When you get there, there's a notice to link to nominate someone. The deadline is February 24th.
And, this is our 59th year, and we have a fantastic group of folks who get recognized, and it's really exciting to identify what people are doing out there and to cheer them on for an evening. So I encourage you, Louisiana Wildlife Federation Conservation Achievement Awards.
Thanks. Any other comments?
Yes.
Yeah.
The next Bayou Culture Gathering is Friday, February 21st from noon to 1:30. Our speakers, Dr. Jennifer Morrison, from Xavier University. So that's a Zoom meeting. You can find more info online on how to register for that.
Okay. Thanks. Anything else?
Yes. I'd like to invite everyone to the 27th Grand Isle Migratory Bird Festival in April on the 25th and 26th.
Great. Been to that festival before. This is a great event. Glad you're gonna be there.
They do have beautiful birds.
Yep. Any other comments, comments?
Before I close out. Andrew, remember the deadline for proposals is tomorrow. Okay, for fiscal year 2026. Please go ahead and get in your proposals as soon as possible. If you have to pull an all-nighter, do it. Thank you very much.
All right. So with that, I would like to remind everybody about our next meeting on May 8th. It'll be at Nicholls State University, the ballroom, our regular meeting spot. And at that point, we'll approve the annual work plan. So we'll come in. That is one thing I'll remind everybody here at the conference. That is our job. We are here to represent the estuary program, but also to approve their work plan. So it's important for us to be there. And in Tysons, we will be eliminating the progress for it. That'll be there. We have lunch that is here for us, so please don't get everybody stays, sticks around and talk some bits or explains, eat some lunch with it, that would be great. And with that, you have a motion to adjourn. You know, a second. Brian Roberts, thank you. Okay, all in favor? All right, meeting adjourned.